The world as you know it officially ended at 3:02 a.m. Eastern Time. While the mainstream media was obsessed with the latest celebrity scandal in the political theater in Washington, a group of sovereign nations representing over 40% of the global population just signed a death warrant for the US dollar. It is no longer a theory, and it is no longer a distant threat. The BRICS alliance, led by Russia and China, has officially activated the unit, a decentralized gold-backed currency designed specifically to bypass the SWIFT system and render the Federal Reserve obsolete. This is the geopolitical checkmate that the elites have feared for 50 years. The era of printing infinite paper wealth out of thin air has hit a brick wall of physical reality. If your life savings are tied to a digital ledger in a Western bank, you are currently holding a ticket to a sinking ship that has no lifeboats. But the launch of the currency is only the first phase of a much larger, more terrifying plan. We have received leaked reports regarding a secret protocol signed in Kazan that outlines a 48-hour window for BRICS nations to begin a massive, coordinated dump of their remaining U.S. Treasury holdings. This protocol is the kill switch for the Petrodollar system. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the specific numbers that prove this dump has already begun in the shadow markets, and why a national bank holiday might be declared in the United States by next Monday. But before we reveal the timeline of the dollar's final collapse, we must look at the betrayal that made this possible. They knew this was coming. The Federal Reserve, the Treasury Department, and the architects of the Great Reset have known for years that the dollar was on life support. But instead of warning you, they doubled down on the lie. They encouraged you to take on more debt, to buy overpriced assets, and to trust in a system that they were systematically looting behind the scenes. While they tell you that inflation is cooling, they are quietly moving their own wealth into the very gold and silver that the BRICS alliance is using to back their new system. They have set the stage for your financial destruction to ensure their own survival. They are the insiders, and you are the collateral. The unit isn't just a currency, it's a revolt against the bankers who have enslaved the world through debt. The math of the American empire is no longer sustainable. We are currently sitting on a mountain of $36.1 trillion in national debt. To put that into perspective, the interest payments alone on that debt are now larger than our entire defense budget. The Federal Reserve is trapped in a feedback loop where they must print more money just to pay the interest on the money they already printed. This is the definition of a Ponzi scheme at its terminal stage. The BRICS nations realize that the dollar is backed by nothing but faith and credit, and both are in short supply. By backing their new currency with physical gold at a ratio that reflects the true scarcity of the metal, they are imposing a mathematical discipline that the United States can never meet. For the last decade, the People's Bank of China has been the world's largest buyer of physical gold. They haven't just been buying it on the open market. They have been draining the vaults of London and New York through secret off-market transactions. Our research indicates that China's true gold reserves are likely 5 to 10 times larger than what they officially report. Why the secrecy? Because you don't show your hand until you are ready to flip the table. By hoarding the world's physical supply and then launching a gold-backed currency, China has effectively cornered the market on reality. They have the gold, and we have the paper. History shows that the nation with the gold makes the rules. The most devastating blow to the US dollar is the loss of its status in the energy markets. For 50 years, the deal with Saudi Arabia was simple. We protect your throne and you sell your oil exclusively in dollars. That deal died last night. Saudi Arabia has officially joined the BRICS bridge and is now accepting the unit and the Chinese yuan for its crude exports. Without the petrodollar requirement, there is no longer any reason for the rest of the world to hold US dollars in their central bank reserves. Trillions of unwanted greenbacks are now preparing to flood back to our shores, creating a tidal wave of hyperinflation that will make the 1970s look like a golden era of stability. When those trillions of dollars return to the United States, they won't just sit in bank vaults, they will compete for the limited supply of goods and services at home. This is how hyperinflation begins. It's not just about the price of gold going up, it's about the value of your dollar going down to zero. You will see it first at the grocery store, then at the gas pump, and finally in your utility bills. A gallon of milk that costs $4 today could cost $40 by next year. This is the great devaluation that Russia and China have engineered to punish the West for its weaponization of the financial system. The elites won't let the dollar die without a fight, but their solution is even more terrifying than the problem. They will use the chaos of the BRICS launch to justify a total shutdown of the traditional banking grid. Expect to see cyber attacks blamed for the loss of access to your funds. During this blackout, they will transition the entire population into a central bank digital currency, CBDC. This new digital dollar will be programmable, traceable, and entirely under the control of the Federal Reserve. They are using the BRICS threat as a smokescreen to lead you into a digital prison where they can turn off your ability to buy or sell with the click of a button. In 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the US dollar as the world's reserve currency because it was the only currency backed by gold. In 1971, Nixon severed that link, turning the dollar into a pure debt instrument. Now, in 2025, the BRICS alliance is essentially launching Bretton Woods 2.0, but this time, the United States isn't invited to the table. We are witnessing a 180-degree reversal of the last 80 years of financial history. Power is shifting from the debtor nations of the West to the creditor nations of the East. This is the most significant transfer of global dominance since the fall of the British Empire. U.S. banks are currently facing a liquidity crisis that is being hidden from the public. As BRICS nations dump treasuries, the value of the collateral on bank balance sheets is evaporating. This is why we are seeing a sudden increase in bank glitches and withdrawal limits. The banks simply do not have the cash to satisfy a mass exit. If even 10% of depositors tried to withdraw their funds to buy physical gold or silver, the entire U.S. banking system would be bankrupt in under an hour. The unit launch has created a vacuum that is sucking the remaining life out of the fractional reserve system. Follow the actions of the whales, not the words of the politicians. Central banks around the world purchased a record amount of gold in the last quarter, more than at any time since 1967. Why are they buying if gold is just a yellow metal, as the media claims? Because they know the dollar is a dying asset. They are building their lifeboats while they tell you to keep your money in the sinking ship of the S&P 500. The smart money has already exited the system. If the people who print the money are trading it for gold, what does that tell you about the future of the dollar? The COMEX and LBMA vaults are currently operating on a fractional reserve basis that would make a Las Vegas casino blush. It is estimated that for every 1 ounce of physical gold in their vaults, there are over 100 paper ounces traded in the digital markets. The BRICS gold-backed currency is designed to trigger a delivery request crisis. When China and Russia demand the physical metal that they bought, the Western exchanges will be forced to default. This will send the real price of gold and silver into the stratosphere, leaving the paper investors with nothing but a legal claim against a bankrupt exchange. The most vulnerable victims of the unit launch will be the millions of Americans who rely on Social Security and fixed income pensions. These funds are almost entirely invested in U.S. Treasury debt. As the value of that debt collapses due to the BRICS dumping, the purchasing power of your monthly check will vanish. You might still receive the same number of dollars, but those dollars won't buy a week's worth of groceries. The government will adjust your benefits for inflation, but their calculations will be a lie designed to keep you from realizing that your retirement has been stolen to pay for the sins of the central bankers. History proves that military dominance is always a lagging indicator of economic dominance. The nation that controls the money eventually controls the world. By launching a currency that the world actually wants to use, the BRICS alliance is laying the foundation for a new global security architecture. We are already seeing the cracks in NATO as member nations like Turkey begin to flirt with the BRICS bridge. Without the ability to print infinite dollars to fund our military bases around the world, the U.S. empire will be forced to retreat. The launch of the gold-backed unit is the sound of the gates of the empire closing. We are now in a race between two competing resets. On one side is the WEF's Great Reset, which wants to eliminate private property and implement a social credit system through CBDCs. On the other side is the BRICS Resource Reset, which wants to return the world to a system of hard assets and sovereign trade. Both systems mean the end of the world as you knew it, but only one offers a return to sound money. The tragedy is that the American citizen is caught in the middle, being used as a pawn by both sides of this global conflict. For the small business owner, the launch of the BRICS currency is a death sentence for cheap credit. As the dollar loses its reserve status, the Federal Reserve will be forced to hike interest rates to astronomical levels just to keep anyone from selling the dollar. We could see mortgage rates hit 20% or higher, similar to what happened in the late 70s, but with 10 times the debt load. This will crush the housing market and bankrupt any business that relies on revolving credit. The easy money era is over, and the hard reality era has begun. Vladimir Putin has turned Russia into a resource fortress. By demanding payment in rubles or gold for Russian energy, he has effectively tied the price of oil and gas to physical metal. The launch of the unit is the final piece of this strategy. Russia provides the energy, China provides the manufacturing, and the gold provides the trust. The West, which produces nothing but debt and entertainment, is being locked out of the world's most important trade routes. We are being quarantined by the very nations we tried to sanction. The final stage of this collapse will be violent and sudden. In every hyperinflationary event in history, from Zimbabwe to Weimar Germany, there's a hockey stick moment where the currency loses half its value in a matter of days. The BRICS launch is the trigger for that moment in the United States. You will wake up one morning and find that the price of everything has doubled overnight. This is why you're seeing a sudden surge in out-of-stock messages at major retailers. The smart money is already clearing the shelves before the dollar's value hits zero. We are now in the final 48-hour window before the effects of the Kazan Protocol reach your local bank. If you have been waiting for a sign to secure your physical position in gold or silver, this is it. The window to exit the digital grid at a reasonable price is slamming shut. Once the national security protocols are activated and the banks are frozen, your digital wealth will be nothing more than a souvenir of a fallen empire. The bear and the dragon have made their move. The dollar is dead. The unit is live. Physics always wins, and the physics of $36 trillion says that the paper system must fail. The launch of the gold-backed BRICS currency is the physical manifestation of that failure. Secure your physical position now. Move your wealth into assets that have no counterparty risk. Assets that the Federal Reserve cannot print and the government cannot freeze. If you hold the debt of the West, you will share in its fate. If you hold the assets of the East, you will survive the transition. The choice is yours, but the time to choose is gone. Physics is in control now. Subscribe for the next emergency update. The Great Reset is here.